Bolsonaro-backed candidates pull ahead in Brazil mayor elections. Reuters reports that conservative think tank targeting NASA employees' communications about Musk and Trump. Hillary Clinton says social media companies need to moderate content. Bolsonaro-backed candidates pull ahead in Brazil mayor elections. Reuters reports that conservative think tank targeting NASA employees' communications about Musk and Trump. Hillary Clinton says social media companies need to moderate content or we lose total control. Vance says a future Trump administration would defund Planned Parenthood. Muslim faith leaders endorse Harris. Harris weighs more breaks with Biden as he keeps injecting himself into the campaign.
Axios comments as potential Trump loss threatens destruction of modern GOP. Over 10,000 anti-Semitic incidents recorded in the U.S. since October 7, 2023. According to ADL preliminary data, NBC comments as, the next president is poised to inherit the fewest judicial vacancies in generations.
Musk says he'll attend Trump rally in Butler, seen a July shooting. Liz Cheney invokes January 6th as she touts endorsement of Harris in Wisconsin. Republican election denier Tina Peters sentenced to 9 years in prison for voting data scheme.
Jamie Dimon denies Trump's claim that JP Morgan CEO has endorsed him. Ben Horowitz will donate to Harris campaign after Trump support. Small dollar donations drive Trump campaign past $160 million in September.
EU vote on Chinese EV tariffs inconclusive, leaving EU Commission to decide. EU sources say, recently, EU is set to vote on tariffs targeting electric vehicles from China. Germany lobbies fellow EU members to vote against tariffs on Chinese EVs, as German Union. Auto workers call on Germany to vote against EU tariffs on Chinese EVs. Scholz advisor says EV tariffs, not good idea. Ahead of vote, in China, EU must reason their way out of EV dispute, says Merkel's former advisor. Shares in Stellantis. Aston Martin skid on profit warnings, as European carmakers warn on profits in the face of weak demand and rising costs.
Court says betting on U.S. congressional elections can resume for now. In Brazil, Haddad says 2,000 illegal betting sites will be taken offline. Robinhood lets Brits lend shares for extra income and bid to grow international footprint.
Arab League condemns what it describes as Israel's brutal scenario in Lebanon. Oxfam says more women, children killed by Israel in Gaza than in any other conflict in 2 decades. Nobel Peace Prize could honor UNRWA, ICJ, and UN Chief Guterres, as Security Council backs Guterres after Israeli move to label UN chief persona non grata. Newsom vetoes U.S.'s first bill aimed at regulating large-scale artificial intelligence and passes law protecting consumer brain data. California enacts car data privacy law to curb domestic violence, and California governor vetoes bill requiring speeding alerts in new cars. California law bans college legacy and donor admissions, including at USC, Stanford.
Iran launches about 180 ballistic missiles at Israel. Biden directed U.S. military to help Israel shoot down Iranian missiles. Politico reports that U.S. officials quietly backed Israel's military push against Hezbollah. Tens of thousands of illegal immigrants with sexual assault, murder convictions in U.S., as per ICE data. Just Stop Oil protesters jailed for throwing soup at Van Gogh's sunflowers. New York Times comments as, in the U.S., in a first among Christians, young men are more religious than young women. Hezbollah confirms its leader Hassan Nasrallah was killed in an Israeli airstrike. Netanyahu distances himself from U.S.-led proposal for ceasefire in Lebanon, as Israel and Hezbollah ceasefire report is false, Netanyahu's office says. Palestinian journalist Bison Oda and AJ Plus win Emmy for Gaza war documentary.
Netflix cancellations spiked after Reed Hastings donated to Kamala Harris. 43 feet tall, naked Nevada Trump effigy vanishes after roadside ruckus. Man accused of attempting to assassinate Trump pleads not guilty to federal charges. Harris says she backs legalizing marijuana, going further than Biden. Trump says one rough hour of policing would end crime. Far right wins close Austria election, a boost for Putin. NYT endorses Harris as the only choice for president, as New York Times comments for Kamala Harris, the only patriotic choice for president. On September 20th, in-person voting begins for the U.S. presidential contest, kicking off the sprint to Election Day. CBS News to air QR code fact-check feature during vice presidential debate.
Vance and Walz keep it civil, in a policy-heavy discussion, in VP debate. UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, restates its profound concern as the U.S. government moves to make permanent its June 2024 asylum regulation. CBS cuts mics of Vance and Walz during immigration argument.
Trump backs out of 60 Minutes primetime interview, CBS says. In the U.S., Senate Democrats seek probe into Department of Justice's investigation of Trump and Egypt. Tim Walz said he was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre. He was home in Nebraska.
Shigeru Ishiba to be Japan's next PM after winning LDP leadership election, as Ishiba vows to protect nation, bolster U.S. alliance. Bloomberg reports as poverty soars past 50% in Argentina as Milei austerity hits hard. New Chinese nuclear attack submarine sank during construction, U.S. defense official says.
Brazil's top court imposes new fine before allowing X to resume service. Iranian operatives charged in the U.S. with hacking Donald Trump's presidential campaign. Meta blocks links to the hacked J.D. Vance dossier on Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. 2 days ago, X suspends journalist Ken Klippenstein after he published J.D. Vance dossier. OpenAI launches new multimodal content moderation model based on GPT-4o, capable of detecting text and images.
Trump brags about very good relationship with Putin while hosting Zelensky, and meeting with Zelensky, Trump says he will negotiate a Ukraine and Russia deal that's good for both sides. Hungarian PM Orban's aide sparks outrage with Soviet invasion comment, as Orban aide says Hungary would have surrendered to Russian invasion.
Trump launches a new business venture during his campaign, the $100,000 watches. The Washington Post comments with, "A true friend of Turkey," for writers on the Eric Adams indictment. NYC Mayor Adams pleads not guilty to U.S. corruption charges, as feds charge NYC Mayor with selling his influence to foreign nationals. He says he won't resign. Newsmax and Smartmatic settle 2020 election defamation case on eve of trial.
Mark Cuban still loves Dogecoin, but every meme coin is a rug pull in the works. IMF urging El Salvador to limit Bitcoin use and tighten regulations. Analysis reveals possible 51% attacks by Satoshi on Bitcoin in early 2009. An upcoming HBO documentary claims to have identified Satoshi Nakamoto. Fortune reports says criminals prefer cash to crypto. New report finds Visa introduces the Visa tokenized asset platform that helps banks issue fiat-backed tokens. Franklin Templeton files for Bitcoin and Ethereum Index ETF with the SEC.
SEC appeals Ripple ruling as Bitwise files for XRP ETF, and SEC's enforcement chief exits as Ripple appeal looms. Kraken to end Monero support in European Economic Area. Mercado Bitcoin taps Ripple for payments between Brazil and Portugal.
Standard Chartered says, Bitcoin not a safe haven against geopolitical risk, gold is. Australia's police confiscates crypto worth $6.4 million in crackdown on ghost messaging app. PayPal settles invoice with EY and PYUSD first business payment.
Man pleads guilty to illegally operating crypto ATM network in the UK. Crypto billionaire Zhao vows more tech investment. After leaving US custody, Robinhood launches crypto transfers in Europe with 1% deposit match. Mango Markets agrees to destroy MNGO tokens in SEC settlement. Robinhood. Revolut reportedly looking to rival Tether with stablecoin launches. U.S. charges Joker stash and Rescator money launderers.
Iran summons Australia envoy over comments on attack on Israel. Iran is increasingly desperate, retired U.S. general says. Israel intensifies bombardment of Gaza and southern Lebanon ahead of October 7th anniversary.
In the UK, FCA fines Starling Bank £29 million for failings in their financial crime systems and controls. Coinbase to delist unauthorized stablecoins in EU by December. Cyber cops stopped 500 ransomware hacks since 2021, DHS says. It has been commented as Federal Reserve drives global push to cut rates despite questions over 2025, and Federal Reserve's rate cut unlikely to boost U.S. auto sales in Q4, as inflation in Europe falls below 2%, paves way for faster interest rate cuts. Czech central bank chief vows to cut rates very cautiously. Romania to pause rate cuts before central bank board reshuffle. Citibank says lira strength appears to be curbing Turkey inflows.
Mozambique's presidential frontrunner likely to keep Rwandans protecting gas sites. Trump vows to restore Confederate general's name to NC military base. DNA reveals identity of officer on the lost Franklin expedition, and his remains show signs of cannibalism.
IDF says it killed Hamas de facto PM, Sinwar's right-hand man, in strike 3 months ago. Reuters special report claims, emails show early U.S. concerns over Gaza offensive, risk of Israeli war crimes, Middle East conflict sparks Chinese national pride, criticism of Israel. Ryanair will eliminate airport check-in desks and paper boarding passes. PepsiCo to buy tortilla chip maker Siete Foods for $1.2 billion. NASDAQ faces inquiry from 22 GOP state attorneys general over diversity rules. Gazprom becomes Russia's least profitable company in 2023, Forbes reports. Rumors of Stellantis and Renault merger are pure speculation, says Stellantis CEO. China's stock boom may turn to bust as in 2015, Nomura warns. Interpol arrests 8 in major phishing and romance fraud crackdown in West Africa. Lockbit ransomware and Evil Corp members arrested and sanctioned in joint global effort. In the U.S., 2 foreign nationals sentenced for multimillion-dollar scheme to defraud Apple Incorporated out of 6,000 iPhones.
White House urges dockworkers and East Coast ports to settle differences amid strike threat, and dockworkers at ports from Maine to Texas go on strike, a standoff risking new shortages. Trump says he asked Musk for Starlink in Helen-hit towns. Police stop more black drivers, while speed cameras issue unbiased tickets, announced in a new study from Chicago. eBay wins dismissal of U.S. lawsuit over sale of harmful products. T-Mobile pays $31.5 million FCC settlement over 4 data breaches. YouTube inks deal with SZA to restore music videos for Adele, Nirvana, Bob Dylan, and more in U.S.
France to consider corporate tax increase to lower budget deficit. Claudia Sheinbaum is sworn in as Mexico's first female president. Former Dutch leader Rutte takes NATO reins with pledge to keep up Ukraine aid. Pirate library LibGen must pay publishers $30 million, but no one knows who runs it, as U.S. court orders LibGen to pay $30 million to publishers, issues broad injunction. California's new law forces digital stores to admit you're just licensing content, not buying it. Steam will let you sue Valve now. Wall Street Journal comments as Donald Trump Jr. became the crown prince of MAGA world. Elon Musk's mother encouraged ex-followers to commit voter fraud, as she is fact-checked on Sun's platform. Recently in U.S. presidential elections, Elon Musk's mother may under fire for suggesting Republicans make 10 fake names to vote. Kushner has discussed U.S. and Saudi diplomacy with Saudi crown prince since leaving office. Trump resorted to crimes to overturn 2020 election. Special counsel reveals in new evidence, as Trump not entitled to immunity for efforts to overturn 2020 election, U.S. special counsel says. Video shows J.D. Vance saying Trump won the 2020 election. New details emerge on Trump's alleged plan to use fake electors to overturn election loss, as Rudy Giuliani allegedly sent a text begging Michigan to overturn 2020 election. But he got the wrong number. Our CMP official won't say whether Chinese police stations are still operating in Canada. Bugging device found in my bathroom after Netanyahu visit, claims Boris Johnson. Chinese woman arrested in Germany on suspicion of espionage, prosecutor says.
UK cedes Chagos Island sovereignty to Mauritius, retains Diego Garcia Air Base. Argentina vows to gain full sovereignty of the Falklands with concrete action after Chagos deal. Masamitsu Yoshioka, last Pearl Harbor bombardier, dies at 106, 500 pounds US WW2 bomb explodes at Japanese airport 80 years later.
MPs to get historic vote on England and Wales assisted dying bill. In the US, 10 pharmaceutical distributor executives, sales representatives, and brokers charged in connection with unlawful sales of nearly 70 opioid pills. WHO approves first monkeypox diagnostic test for emergency use, boosting global access. Putin signs law giving criminal defendants immunity if they join the army. Chinese mercenaries fighting for Russia killed in Ukraine, claimed in a report. Russia scraps population census as war casualties mount.
CIA seeks informants in China, North Korea, and Iran recruiting online. In the U.S., 5 Chinese nationals charged with covering up midnight visit to Michigan military site. Russian state TV employee caught impersonating BBC reporter to film Russian opposition figures in Europe.
Zelensky calls for jointly intercepting Russian missiles during NATO chief Rutte's visit to Kiev, as new NATO chief Mark Rutte visits Ukraine in his first trip since taking office. NATO won't shoot down Russian missiles and drones over Ukraine as it's involving us in war in different way, announced by Pentagon.
Nasrallah's reported successor, Hashem Safieddine, targeted in Israel Air Force's strike in Beirut, said in a report. Iran will attack Israel again if necessary, Supreme Leader says in rare speech. Biden says, U.S. discussing possible Israeli strikes on Iran oil facilities and Indian Navy ships reach Iranian port for training, amid West Asia tensions. U.S. crude oil jumps as Biden comments on possible Israel retaliation against Iran. Slovakia says it has strong interest in maintaining transit of Russian oil, gas via Ukraine, as if war ends I'll restore relations with Russia, Slovakia's Fico says. 10 days ago, Slovak Prime Minister PM Robert Fico gets a bullet in the mail. Warsaw condemns Moscow for abductions of children in Ukraine, as Polish Foreign Minister likens Russian kidnapping of Ukrainian children to Nazi crimes in UN speech.
Yazidi woman kidnapped by IS when she was 11 freed from Gaza. In U.S.-led operation after decade in captivity. French jihadist linked to Charlie Hebdo attackers. Sentenced to life in prison. Bloomberg comments as Israel's fight with Islamist groups puts Arab world in dilemma. And Reuters reports that Gulf states sought to reassure Iran of their neutrality in Iran and Israel conflict, sources say.
Hamas commander killed in Israeli strike-led UN Refugee Agency Teachers Union, as UNRWA confirms Hamas leader in Lebanon was its employee. Netanyahu says killing Nasrallah is key to restoring power balance and recovering hostages. The Independent comments as a scandal at the Jewish Chronicle also goes to the top of the BBC, and New York Times comments as a 180-years-old Jewish paper is roiled by fabrications and a secret. Who owns it?
The Guardian reports that Russia's FSB protected evil corp gang that carried out NATO cyberattacks. Apple quietly deletes nearly 100 VPNs that allowed Russians to get around censorship. In the U.S., Russian National